Hello, everyone, and welcome to our presentation, The Hands of Heritage, the Making and Breaking of Community Archaeology in Belize. The origins of this project has its roots when I did lectures across Belize, where Belizean students were largely just consumers of archaeological knowledge. Later on, working with BVAR, I mostly worked with foreign undergrads, and Belizeans were hired to be mostly field hands, but there wasn't much engagement with them. Later on, Galen worked along with BVAR, where I would teach Belizean undergrad students archaeological field methods, and this also gave me an opportunity to take on a lot more Belizean volunteers who also wanted to learn. When I did my master's thesis, I kind of touched on this subject a little bit, but it wasn't deep enough as the focus was mostly on the projects that are working in Belize and the different heritage management institutions in Belize as well. So for my PhD, I wanted to focus more on the impact that being part of a project has on a young Belizean. Does it make them feel any different about themselves, about their cultural heritage, their cultural identity? And working along with Belizeans over the years has helped me see that they want to take a part because they live here. And as one of my students had told me, this we heritage that we banya. So this project is kind of a balanced attempt at having them learn what they can about archaeological field methods and archaeology in general, everything from excavations to lab mapping, working with scanning, but also taking part in lectures, especially on things like epigraphy and ceramic analysis.
Hello, my name is Ashana Rana, and today I will be presenting on the importance of community archaeology. Let's start by taking a look at the positive impacts of community archaeology for Belize and Belizeans. As a young girl, I used to think that certain jobs were out of reach. I would watch the news and documentaries and I would say to myself, see, that's not something a Belizean does or can do. This program seeks to break that limiting belief by showing that not only is it possible, but it is also necessary. Educating more Belizeans to work in fields such as archaeology is important because we need to have a connection with what is happening in our country. When Belizeans do archaeology, we work with reverence and respect for those that came before us. We understand the cultural sensitivity and the significance of what we are doing. We are able to share information with the wider community in ways that nobody else could. Many participants for this year's program were new, myself included. We had a preconceived idea of what archaeology was. Think movies, news headlines, documentaries, all of which can romanticize or oversimplify things. Some of us even came with the hopes of finding gold, jade, and bones on the first day. Unfortunately, those were unrealistic expectations, as we were not excavating temples. Rather, we were excavating the homes and workshops of everyday Mayan men and women. In the beginning, every rock had the potential to be something of importance, but throughout the weeks we became confident in identifying artifacts from non-artifacts. We were given the opportunity to participate in all aspects of the science. We were encouraged to be curious, to ask questions, and to develop theories. And in doing that, we became more confident and we had new understandings of what archaeology meant. During our morning discussions, we learned new terms, listened to stories about the Mayas, and planned a day. Throughout the weeks, we had numerous lectures and hands-on experiences in the lab and in the field, and we became more familiar with archaeology. We participated in setting up units, excavating, identifying artifacts, sifting through the dirt to ensure that no small artifacts would go unnoticed, and cleaning and labeling artifacts. We learned about photogrammetry, creating plan views, mapping, and preparing artifacts for storage. We also learned about the Mayas' numerology, glyphs, and Mayan ceramic analysis, to name a few. And on top of this, we learned soft skills that are transferable to all aspects of life. And what better way to conclude my part of this presentation than a personal impact statement?
In this section, we're going to look at obstacles that community archaeology faces and has been facing for the past few years that it has been active. One of those obstacles would be the implementation of the project. There is no concrete published work or examples that we can follow on how to teach the new Belizean enthusiasts on how to do archaeology properly, because there is no back theory of them knowing how to do archaeology. So basically, teaching is done in the moment, in sight, with the best explanation we can. We teach them the basics on how to use a pick, a trowel, a dustpan, how to put the dirt in the bucket, how to sieve it. And so this creates an ambient of teaching in the moment, inside. And so another of the implementation practices would be that this project is done during summer. And so for summer, students are basically out of school. However, they might be on vacations with their family outside of the country, or they might have other things of higher priority to do. And so participation of students is very low. We had decreased participation in the high school season we had because students were out of school, or during they were doing their summer exams or their summer classes. And so although some had signed up for the project, they had basically still school going on at some point. And so this creates a backdraw on how much participation we get. And because, as I mentioned, the participants are new to digging, the process is very slow at the beginning. You can only manage a few inches on the first week. And so we try to have these young Belizeans to get acquainted with the setting, to try to feel the enthusiasm, the connection with the site. And so, well, after they get their own pace, which is around the mid of the second week or third week, work is done gradually better. However, the setback is the beginning where the progress is very slow. So, for example, this group of students was the handful we had last summer. It's just a few of them, and we were expecting at least three times the amount of students. However, we worked with what we had and we accomplished a lot. I And so another obstacle would be recruitment. Recruitment is quite, as the best method of recruitment would be flyers, and we try to put flyers in highly um, populated areas such as stores. However, some stores refuse to put up our flyers because, it's their policy. And so places like the House of Culture, they do accept our flyers and they post them around. However, people don't usually go to these places, so recruitment by flyers in is not the best, I would say, but it still gets the job done. School visits, however, we have to work with schools, their times, the permission of the teachers. And so, although it is manageable, students might sign up in the moment because they get enthusiastic. However, during summer, they realize that they prefer their vacations over, well, going to a site to dig and get dirty, they would think, right? So, that's another of the obstacles. We have online presence. Our strongest social media platform is TikTok. And so TikTok is quite popular these days. However, not every single youth or every single person in the country has access to stable or permanent internet to be like active on the internet and be able to like see our content more often, and so to get their attention, right? So that would be quite of a setback, and social media does help a lot, I would say. And also, a setback that we found is that the location of our project, we are located in the Cayo district, and so commuters from outside of the district find it very difficult to come to excavations. So they might come 1 or 2 times per the season, and that would be it. Compared to the ones that are from the district, they would find it a little bit more easier to get to site.
Sustaining interest. There's this common misconception of what archaeology really is. Archaeology is more than discovering treasure and finding dinosaur bones. In reality, fieldwork can take a lot of time, especially with the meticulous work that we are doing. We're in nature, so obviously it's going to be hot and humid. All of these factors tend to disappoint many participants, leading them to leave with no explanation at all. Field notes can sometimes feel as if it is a chore, especially because it's during the summer break. This is nothing like what we see in the movies or on TV. And because we have such a small budget, are not able to provide stipends for many of our participants. And this tends to lead the work to be strictly voluntary. Conclusion. This project is still an experiment in its early stages. We're figuring things out as we go, what's working and what needs to be changed. It will take a few years before we get things running smoothly. Recruitment is a big focus. There's no set method yet, so we're creating one as we go. Something that can be adopted for different projects and communities. Funding is yet another challenge. We need more support, especially for stipends, because many young people choose summer jobs over a project like this. But this work matters. It can change how Belizeans see archaeology. Too many still think it's only for foreigners, or they don't understand why formal excavations are important. Even so, the project shows promise. Young Belizeans are already being published in reports, proving they are producing knowledge, not just field labor. And most importantly, participants want to return. This is showing it's not just about archaeology, but about pride in our country, our history, and our heritage. Future direction. There's a real need for greater funding. This could mean by applying for grants or working with local communities and businesses for contributions, whether it is financially or even donation of supplies. Schools can also play a huge role by offering incentives like school credit, extra credit hours for classes, or service hours for graduation. Students will not just be showing up, but they will be invested in what we are doing. This year, we added lectures on ceramics, Maya writing, and photogrammetry. This worked really well alongside the fieldwork, helping our participants see how much we can learn from every artifact. To boost our recruitment and visibility, we could use local media, TV shows, for example, or radio stations, and also informative booths at community events can also help us get the word out. In the long run, through trial and error, of course, we want to develop a methodology that can work, something that can be applied across Belize, even adjusted for different communities. With a strong methodology, we can give community archaeology the academic weight it deserves and make it a key part of research design in the future.